Hi, I'm Gail Sokol, and on today's show, we'll be talking about baking memories with Grandma Etta.
Welcome to Baking Radio. Learn the art and science of baking with author, educator, and award-winning chef, Gail Sokol. Whether you've been baking your whole life or you're brand new to the world of baking and you're looking to build your confidence and learn new skills in the kitchen, you're in the right place. This is Baking Radio.
On today's show, I would like to talk about the wonderful memories I had baking with my Grandma Etta. I have always wondered exactly where I got my passion for baking and the need to be in the kitchen. I'm always in the kitchen. I long to be in the kitchen. When you think about it, it really doesn't make sense. My mother hates cooking, hates baking even more, and even being in the kitchen at all. So for all practical purposes, you would think I would have no desire to be in that room. And yet I take such comfort there. When I'm upset or sad, I run to that room and I have an insatiable urge to bake something. I remember spending all day making pounds of pastries at culinary school and coming home and feeling very stressed out. And I had an urge to bake yet again. Crazy, right? But it's really comforting to me. I think I do it because I know for a fact that if I bake something from scratch, homemade, I have so much feeling for it, I feel better. And I know if I give it to somebody, it'll make me feel even better when they try it and they tell me how wonderful it is because they know I made it with love. And because I care about them. And it's a guaranteed feeling each and every time. And you know what? It's cheaper than therapy, so I'm for it. My paternal grandmother, Etta, had a great deal to do with how I feel. She inspired me. When the family would get together in her house for various occasions, and she was in the kitchen preparing a meal, guess where I was? Yep, I was following the wonderful aromas coming from her kitchen. While all the cousins were playing outside, I would always ask her, "Can I stay and help you, Grandma? Can I stay and help you? Do you have anything for me to do?" She is the reason I can peel a potato. I can remember when I was 5 trying to peel a potato and the potato flipping back into the sink because I couldn't handle the peeler properly. And when I properly fold an egg white into a batter of sponge cake, she taught me that, just to name a few tasks. Just such wonderful things, life skills. And I knew she felt the way I did. I knew she loved being in that room, the kitchen. Now, my grandmother was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. She was loving, don't get me wrong, and I was crazy about her. But she could be quite critical at times. I remember making my first sponge cake, and as I was eagerly awaiting her reaction when I showed it to her, her response was, "You call that a cake?" Okay, all right, that was a little harsh, Grandma. I was not expecting that. And all right, she was right. The cake was not as high as hers. And hey, it was only my first attempt, so I got a little mad at her. And I said to her, "Grandma, what is wrong with the cake? Tell me." So she told me it could have been higher, and I probably didn't fold the egg whites in properly. Or I took too long to do so, collapsing the egg foam I had just carefully created. Now, she wasn't a food scientist. She didn't know exactly why she was putting in one ingredient versus another. But even I knew that the egg whites held air and leavened this type of cake. So although the comment was tough to take, she did in fact teach me a lesson. So I made it again and again, and after several attempts, I proudly offered her my cake, my sponge cake. And this time, she was raving, saying that she had never seen such a high sponge cake in her life, and even hers was not as high. All right, so she was stroking my ego a little bit, but you know what? I needed it. I wanted it. I craved it from Grandma because Grandma was my she was the upper limit. She was the bomb. And if she said it was good, it was good. It was good. In the summer, she and my grandfather lived in a small house by a lake in upstate New York. Such great memories I had of summer swimming and fishing and hiking. And I also fondly remember going blueberry picking with her each summer. There were wild blueberries growing on the edge of this older man's property. They were so wild, I actually thought they were weeds. They didn't even look like blueberries. They just looked like little tiny blips on plants. So we picked a big basketful with that gentleman's permission, and I have to admit there were times when we did not get his permission. And then we headed back to her kitchen, where we would make the most incredible blueberry muffins I have ever tasted in my life. After following her around one time while she baked those muffins, trying to write down every ingredient and the exact amount she added, I made those muffins, and I would make them at home time and time again. Many, many times. And I added my own touches as well. I remember taking some extra sugar and sprinkling sugar on top of each muffin before it went into the oven. And when I was a teenager, and I thought I perfected it just enough that they were like the most perfect blueberry muffins, I asked Grandma's permission. I said, Grandma, can I enter them in the county fair? And she said, of course, it's your recipe, of course. And it really wasn't my recipe. But I won 4 first places, 4 years in a row of first place every single year. And these older women were looking at me like this young teenager taking our grand prizes away. But it felt so great. It was just like, wow, this really matters. This really is helping me. I'm getting better. I'm pleasing other people as well. I was hooked on baking. Whenever my mother received a cookbook as a gift, she would let me have it. Well, she certainly didn't want it. And I would pore over it like it was a Harry Potter bestseller. Of my grandmother's 8 grandchildren, I am the only one who took to the kitchen like this. A love of the kitchen, and especially baking, just took over my whole being so thoroughly and completely. I've basically devoted my life to it. And you know what? She taught me not to be afraid. Don't be afraid to experiment. If you screw up, you start over. Don't worry about it. And I'm the same way, and I teach my students that as well. It's a great life lesson for anything. So now, whenever I make one of her recipes, after the baked good comes out of the oven and it's on the serving platter, I look upwards and I say out loud, "Hi, Grandma. Now this is a cake." And that blueberry muffin recipe is also proudly in my quick bread chapter of my textbook about professional baking. If you want the best award-winning blueberry muffin recipe ever, please go to my website, chefgailsokol.com, for Grandma Etta's best blueberry muffins. On the next show, we'll be talking about scaling, adjusting your recipe to fit your pans. Thank you so much for listening. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, my YouTube channel, and my website, chefgailsokol.com.